Fine, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Cold.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing in North Dakota. It's a
Yeah.
little bit chilly.
Yes, that's right. That's all right. Prince always used to say that because he lived in Minneapolis, right? And he always used to say, people would go, why do you live in Minneapolis? And his answer was to keep the bad people out.
That's hilarious.
And you know, when it gets to be 30 below zero, you don't have a lot of crime happening on the streets.
That's what I hear. Coldness makes criminals go away.
Criminals like warmth.
They do. That's hilarious.
Yep.
Well, I don't know how many people we're going to have show up today, but we're doing a surprise session for you guys. So as we let people filter in here, Steve, how about maybe you could entertain us with some guitar playing? I'm going to make a quick cup of coffee.
Oh, okay. All right. Hello, Mike. Hello, Stanlin and Paul. Shirag, Leah. Hey, everybody. Trying to get my hands warmed up. It's not terrible here, but I think we're right around 30 degrees here. So it's just trying to get things adjusted. We had warmth, and now in North Dakota here, we don't. So we're back to being a little cold. Hey, Ozman. Hey, Danny. Hey, Mark. Hey, Sam. Hi from Germany. That's awesome. Mayo mayonnaise. George, Rick. How you doing? Paul, Robert, Kevin, Dark Guy from India. Aaron, Robert, Richard. Haynes from the UK. Hey, bud. Jack is here from Philadelphia. Yeah, we thought it'd be fun to go live again. We were done, and then I think Dan missed me a lot, even though he won't admit it. And so we decided to go live again. So today we're going to be talking about all kinds of fun stuff. So there he is.
Cool.
Yes, the chuckle was for your name. Philip is there. Freddie is there. Angelo, Jay, Harry. We got all kinds of people here. This is great.
Super cool. I was seriously thinking, Steve, it might just be me and you.
Oh, yeah. No, there's always good people out there ready to learn some guitar stuff for sure.
That's awesome. Oh, sorry. I have to turn down my air conditioner. I'm already burning up. Hang on.
Okay. We have built-in air conditioner here in North Dakota. Hey, Matthew. Hey, Riley. Engweber. I think that's how you say your name. Hello, Dwayne. Tony watching from Italy. Hey, Tony. Javon. Chumac TV. Hey, awesome. I'm glad you're here too.
Zagreb, Croatia. Awesome.
Yes.
We have some friends in Croatia.
Yep. We've got Prasoon,
Romania.
I'm not sure if that's how you say it. Emir from the UK, Stephen from England. That's what I love about going live early, is that you get people from all over the world. When you go at 8 at night, everybody's sleeping, other than the United States, of course. But
right. Awesome. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Spare the moment. Steve and I we did 5 workshops. And the last one we did, we're like, this is the last workshop. We're not doing any more on essential techniques ever. I'm just kidding. We just say ever, but we had 5 planned, and then we were like, well, maybe we should just do a couple of more of these because people really, really liked them, and the feedback was awesome. In fact, Steve, I don't know if you know this, but one of the ones that we did just on one channel had like 20,000 views. And which is pretty amazing for a live broadcast. And so we are actually here live. This isn't like a replay. Well, it depends. Maybe at some point it'll be a replay. Right now it's live.
yeah. At this moment in time, yeah.
Yeah. Parker Nettle says, oh, I missed it.
Oh, I'm just putting up, everybody's saying hi here.
Oh,
so
cool.
Just throw up some hellos there.
This is some cool technology. And Steve was just telling me, guys, that we actually need to expand our level of whatever thing that we have right now so that everybody can comment. We only have a certain level of this software that we're using right now. And apparently there's so many people here that want to join that we're maxed out. So we got to contact the company and upgrade our technology, but we will do that. And we're going to do another one of these sessions on Monday. So Monday, October 26th, I'm letting everybody know now, we're going to do the last one, and that will be at 10 o'clock. And that's going to be a cool one as well. So please join us for Monday, October 26th. We're going to do another one of these live sessions today. We're going to be talking about the 3 critical soloing techniques that every guitarist needs to know, which are vibrato, bends, and slides. So 3 critical soloing techniques: vibrato, bends, and slides. And then Monday, the workshop is called Picking and Rhythm Control. Everything that we're going to talk about today, guys, is related to Steve's new course. It's called Essential Techniques by Steve Stein. It's available right now at the introductory price, plus several fast action bonuses, which are actual courses that we sell on the website every day. It's all available at guitarzoom.com. A whole lot of people have already signed up for that course, and we thank you profusely for that. If you have already signed up for Essential Techniques and you've got a chance to get in there and start working on it, come back and tell us what you think about it. That would be super cool. And finally, if you have questions about soloing techniques, anything to do with soloing technique, let's try to keep it focused on that. And then we're going to do, please post them in the chat wherever you are. We have this software that actually brings in everybody's comments so we can see from the different places that you may be, YouTube, Facebook, and then we're able to read those, and we'll try to enter as many of those as we can at about the half-hour mark. Okay, so please stick around. We'll answer as many questions as we can. And again, if you want to get the course, go to guitarzoom.com, click on the big banner at the top called Essential Techniques. The introductory price ends soon. Cool? All right, buddy. I'll let you take it away, man.
Well, okay. So again, we just kind of threw this together as an impromptu idea, but these are all things that I love to teach. So when it comes to soloing, the first thing that we start learning how to do is we start learning to move up and down the fretboard, right? We start memorizing scale shapes. So somebody teaches us how to play like an A minor pentatonic. Right? So what we do is we start practicing that over and over and over, playing it up, playing it down, that sort of thing. But at some point, what we need to do is we need to start trying to convert that into something that sounds actual, like an actual solo or actual music. And there's certain techniques that you need to learn how to develop and use in your playing to break from just making your solo sound like. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That can still be converted into music. But when you start using what I've always referred to as human elements, which are things like sliding, bending, vibrato, hammer-ons, pull-offs, those sorts of things, those are the things that really start making your solos come to life. Okay? Mm-hmm. So if we think about this, if I was going to take, again, I'll just be an A minor. It's just easier if I stay in the same key all the time for people who are watching and learning from different videos. So if I was in A minor, the first thing we'll do is we'll focus on what we call vibrato. Okay? Now, vibrato is done by playing a note and then shaking that note. And it creates like a vocal quality, right? When somebody sings. And there's a lot of different ways that you can make vibrato, but let's first just talk about how to do the vibrato. Now, for most people, I do what's called a blues stance, okay, or a blues grab. And what I'm doing is you can see that my thumb is coming over the top. Now, oftentimes when I play things, my thumb will be down kind of in the center of the guitar here, if you can see that, okay, and I'll be doing things. But when I want to do my vibrato, I'll hook up over the top, so I'm literally grabbing onto the guitar. Okay, I'm literally holding onto the neck of the guitar. And what I do then is, let's say I'm at the 5th fret of the 3rd string, and I play that note. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that finger and I'm going to start pulling it toward the floor this way. Now, what you'll notice is I'm not doing this. the vibrato isn't coming from my fingers. The vibrato is coming from my forearm and my wrist. I'm going to be turning like this, like I'm opening a doorknob. So as I grab on, I start pulling that string like I'm opening a doorknob. So it's going to require more effort. But what happens in being able to do it that way is you have more control on how fast you want it, how wide you want your vibrato, and most importantly, that your vibrato can be even. Because sometimes when you do this, you get these really quirky, fast kind of things happening. When you grab on, see, I can decide how wide I want it, and I can decide how fast I want that. Or I can make different kinds of vibratos. You see? But I've got control over that. So the one thing you've got to learn about this is that when you do a vibrato, what you're doing is you're taking the pitch of the note and you're putting it out of tune. So you're not bending it a half step or a whole step or something like that. You're literally bending it so it's out of tune, and then you're bringing it back in tune. But it's that tension and release that makes it sound really cool, and it's just a natural thing that we do. So learning how to do a vibrato, learning how to apply the vibrato, okay, and then learning to be able to do the vibrato on any finger. So a nice little practice that you can walk away from today doing is, let's just take the fifth fret there on the the fifth fret of the third string, and I could do a vibrato with my first finger. And you're going to notice I'm bending or I'm pulling toward the floor. Now, is it possible to do it toward the ceiling? I'm sure it is, but that's not comfortable for me, but you could certainly turn the other direction. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move back, add that finger on, so now there's two fingers on there. Move back, add a third finger on, and then move back and add the pinky on. So I can learn to do the vibrato with any of my fingers. Now, please understand, before we move on to whatever we're going to do, this doesn't mean it's the only way to do vibrato. There's a million ways to do vibrato. There are times that I might be playing, and see how I'm doing a vibrato on my pinky and all my fingers are not down and my thumb is not over the top? There are times when I may have to do a vibrato in whatever situation I find myself in, and that's okay. I'm just saying, if you've never really done vibrato, or if you've never really gotten a good handle on how it works, learning how to do this opening thing, this door opening thing, is a really great way to start doing that. And
this is the door opening vibrato technique. What do you call it?
Well, I don't call it door opening, but that is the action that I'd be taking with my wrist is like I'm turning a doorknob.
Got it.
Right? So that's really what's happening there. So the big thing is to get people to understand that you don't really want your vibrato to simply come from doing this with your fingers. Now, it is possible, again, if my wrist was down like this, let me make this bigger again. If my wrist was down, I could still do this, right? I'm still not going like this, right? I'm still using the wrist. It's just my thumb isn't over the top. So one last thing I want to point out to you is, when I do this, what I want you to notice is that the bottom of my hand, the bottom of my finger, is touching the bottom of the guitar. That's the point at which I'm pulling that string. You see, if I did this with space here, I have nothing to pull against, and that's when I have to start using my fingers.
Got it.
If I grab, so the bottom of my finger is touching right here, okay, then I can turn and I can pull that string as I go, whether my thumb's over the top or not, right? Now, again, that doesn't mean that sometimes you might not be in this position where there is space here and you need to add a vibrato. It's just I have less control at that point, and I'm fully aware of that, right? So my vibrato will be more of a subtle style vibrato when I'm doing that, where when I grab on like this, I can get really big, wide, spacious kinds of vibratos at that point.
Very cool. Guys, if you're just now joining us, welcome. Welcome to I believe this is the 6th live workshop series that we're doing for you. And it's on essential techniques. And today we're doing this is 3 critical soloing techniques that you need to know. One is vibrato, the other is bends, and the other is slides. So we're going to be talking about vibrato, bends, and slides. The number of people that keep piling in here just keeps going up. So I feel like I should tell people what's going on, how to comment. If you're just joining us, go ahead and tell us who you are, where you're from, and if you have any questions about technique, please post them and let us know. We're going to have a rapid fire question and answer session a little bit later. I'm Dan Denley, founder of GuitarZoom, and of course, this is my good friend Steve Stein, guitar instructor extraordinaire. And Steve is the author of the newest course at GuitarZoom. It's called Essential Techniques by Steve Stein, available right now at an introductory price, which ends in just a couple of days. And there's also some really cool bonuses. Somebody asked about chord chasing. There's actually, if you decide to get this course, Essential Techniques, you get an entire bonus course called Chord Chasing Mastery. That's one of the fast action bonuses. So if you'd like to learn how that works, being able to follow chords around and play a solo based on what the chord structure is happening underneath, that will be available for you. You get that course for free when you get Essential Techniques. So guys, thanks again for being here. Let us know your questions. We'll get to those in just a minute. So we just talked about this kind of doorknob technique and talked a little bit about vibrato. And we're covering these three techniques, bending, vibrato, bends, and slides. Where do you want to take it now, my friend?
Well, I'd still like to talk a little bit more about vibrato before we move on here. So the big thing is understanding with vibrato, again, it's not that there's only one way to do it. You've got to explore this and see what works best. But remember, it has to come down to your control, and it has to come down to sound. And even just a nice small vibrato can be very, very effective versus, them. We get it in our head sometimes. Bigger is always better, and that's not necessarily true when it comes to vibrato. So you've got to explore this, and part of it is just don't be in a hurry. When it comes to things like bending, which we'll talk about next, and vibrato and these sorts of things, when I used to do a lot of one-on-one guitar lessons with students, we would talk about these, and then they would try and implement them in their playing because they'd come to lessons each week, and then we would jam a little bit and then work on whatever it is they'd like to do and give them some new material and whatever. When we'd be jamming with this stuff, what would often happen is the student would try and execute one of these techniques, and it wouldn't go as expected. And of course, what happens is when you don't have that confidence and that control, you get timid, you get shy, right? And you back off. So they'd try and go for a bend or something, and it wouldn't work right. And of course, bending can be quite dangerous when it doesn't sound right, because it kind of sounds like you're, killing a cat or something like that. With all these, these sorts of things. And it's okay. I mean, you've got to learn how to gain that control, but you've got to use your ear, and you've got to think about how it feels when you're doing these in the proper execution. And listen to some of the players that you like out there. Someone had mentioned B.B. King earlier, and his unique vibrato, which B.B. King had a very unique vibrato. B.B. King's vibrato was not the vibrato that I wanted to try and emulate. I grew up, wanting to emulate more of like Eric Clapton's vibrato, that sort of thing. Different players. And if you listen, they're drastically different. Like if you listen to B.B. King versus Eric Clapton versus Angus Young versus Yngwie Malmsteen, their vibratos are so different from each other. And then, we get into like the Zakk Wyldes with really wide vibratos and things like that. So be aware that there's a lot of really great stuff that you can do. And in the course, we talk about all these different kinds of vibratos too. But just be aware that there's a lot of different ways that you can practice those.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just reading through all the questions, Steve. I'm trying to kind of compile these for us here. If you want to keep going, go ahead, man.
The next thing we're going to do then is we're going to talk about bending. Now, there's a whole host of different ways that you can bend. And again, I go through all of that stuff in the course, but let's just start with the most common thing, which we'll call a basic bend. So if we were sitting in the A minor pentatonic position, the point of a bend, again, for the most part, there's a million reasons why we might do a bend from an effect kind of standpoint, but from a practical standpoint, let's just understand that a bend is taking a note and bending it to another note, and that note that we're bending to is more than likely part of the scale that we're playing. Doesn't always have to be, but that's a great place to start. So for instance, if I went to the third string of the A minor pentatonic and I went to the 7th fret, okay? And what I want you to notice is I have all 3 fingers sitting on this string right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm going to do a reverse door opening. I'm going to turn this way now. So I'm still touching over on this side like I was talking about earlier, but I have lots of space on this side. So when I pick that note, I'm going to push it toward the ceiling until I hear 2 frets higher. And so you've got to be able to hear that sound, and you do over time. You get used to it. So that's what a whole step bend is, a 2 fret or whole step bend. So 7 is becoming 9. Now why 9? Because the 9th fret is another note of the A minor pentatonic scale. So I'm bending from a note of the pentatonic to another note of the pentatonic. So it's like I'm playing these notes, but instead of playing them separately, I'm going, and I'm bending up to it. Okay, so I can bend a note up, and again, I want to practice making sure I'm hitting the right pitch. I remember once a student saying to me, on one of my Ibanez gems that has like the flower stuff all over it. Mm-hmm. He was like, so do you bend to a point in the flower? And it got me thinking, because depending on the guitar that you play, like bends are different. If you play a shorter scale like a Gibson Les Paul or something versus a longer scale like an Ibanez or a Fender, or for instance, if you played a baritone or you have thicker strings on versus thinner strings, all of those things are going to make the bend feel different. And the distance that you have to bend is going to change. So it has to be your ear. And the greatest way to practice that is just practice getting the sound in your head of what you're trying to target. Okay? Don't be in a hurry of trying to put it into application and using it for soloing. Just get used to, how does it feel? How does it sound? Am I getting to the right place? So again, if we're in A minor pentatonic going to the 7th fret with my ring finger, and the other 2 fingers are there to help stabilize. They are strength for me as I turn. So instead of just trying to turn and hold that with 1 finger, I'm using all 3 fingers to push that up in the air. Now you can go to the 2nd string at the 8th fret, again, pentatonic, where my pinky would normally go. I'm going to put my 3rd finger there and put the other 2 right behind it as well. Now, these 2 are not part of the pentatonic, but it doesn't matter. We're not hearing them. They're just there for strength. And I want to bend the same way. And I can do that on the 8th fret of the 1st string as well. Now, some things you might be thinking, and I'm not trying to go through these way too quick. It's just we only have so much time, but you get the idea of the bend. So the thing that people will ask is, well, why is it that when you go to the 2nd string of the 1st string where you'd normally play your pinky right there, why are you going to your 3rd finger? Well, the reason is because I have more strength in these 3 fingers than I do in my pinky, okay? Plus, it feels more comfortable for me. But the most important reason is because then I've got my pinky available to do stuff with. I can still use my pinky for other kinds of things. Okay, you've probably heard like, bends like that. Well, I can use my pinky for that sort of thing, where if I was using all 4 fingers to do the bend, that pinky is no longer available to do that. Mm-hmm. Another question that I get a lot is, well, why are you bending toward the ceiling? Why can't you bend toward the floor? Like a vibrato. Well, you can bend toward the floor, but the problem is if you bend toward the floor, these strings now become useless because I'm actually getting in their way. If I bend toward the ceiling, I can do all those kind of typical licks and things that people usually do for kind of rock, blues rock sorts of things. Okay? So you can see that when I bend up, I've got that allowance on the bottom, but that doesn't mean it always works. If I was on the 6th string and I wanted to do a bend, I can't go up. I'm going to go off the guitar. Right? Then I'd have to go down. You see? Just like reverse, if I want to do a vibrato on the 1st string, I can't go down. I have to go up. So you just have to keep those things in mind as you're learning this.
Super cool. Man, The number of folks that keep just piling in here is so awesome. We decided to do this thing at the very last minute. So Steve and I are shocked that anybody showed up, to be honest with you. But there just keeps more and more people are just keep piling into this live stream that we're doing here. And I want to thank everybody for coming. What we're doing is a live workshop for you on essential techniques. This particular workshop is on 3 critical techniques that you need for soloing: vibrato, bends, and slides. Don't worry if you're joining late, because we're going to make sure that this workshop gets put on the GuitarZoom YouTube channel in a playlist called Essential Techniques. I'll show you that playlist in just a second. If you're just now joining us, thanks for being here. Please post your questions about what you're interested in, and in terms of what your questions are regarding technique. Okay, please try to keep them focused on either bends, vibrato, or slides, so we can kind of keep it focused. I do want to ask an additional question. We asked this last time. We had some amazing stories and responses, and Steve and I went back and read those later, and we were just like, wow, this is cool. The question is this, guys: what does guitar playing mean to you? What does guitar playing mean to you, and how has it changed your life? We literally had some people last time tell these amazing stories, and if you feel comfortable sharing that with everybody, obviously you're posting this in a public setting. So, just keep that in mind. We had some pretty intimate stories last time, but what does guitar playing mean for you, and how has it changed your life? We would love to hear that and hear your personal story about your guitar journey. So if you'd like to learn some these 3 critical techniques, please keep watching and post your comments. If you want to learn them even faster, go and check out Steve's new course. It's called Essential Techniques by Steve Stein. It's available at guitarzoom.com. And right now it's available at the introductory price with some killer fast action bonuses, which are ending very soon. Okay. So that's available at GuitarZoom. Just click on the big banner at the top. And then a little bit later, I'm going to show you guys Steve's mind map of how he created this course, and show you these things that we're talking about today and how they're incorporated in the course. I'm going to give you a behind the scenes look at exactly how Steve's brain works and how he creates courses for you, which is pretty amazing. And make sure you post your comments, because we're going to go back and do a question and answer session for you guys here in just a few minutes. Go ahead, Steve. I don't mean to interrupt you, buddy.
Well, and I was just going to say too, I see a lot of questions about like techniques and things like that and strengthening. There's a playlist for sure on YouTube on the GuitarZoom page where you can go, and all the other live sessions that Dan and I have been doing are in there. And there's one on finger strength, and there's one on picking techniques. And so you can go back and watch those, and a lot of these questions that you have are certainly going to be answered in those. Hey,
Steve, can you do me a real quick favor? Because we keep telling them to go to the playlist. Let me actually show them how to do that, because some people may not be familiar with it. Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
All right, guys, let me know if you can see this. I'm going to show you exactly where to go to watch all the previous sessions that we've done here. Can you guys see the YouTube channel?
Yep.
Okay, all you need to do is go to YouTube, just type in GuitarZoom. Okay. And then click on this big old button right there. That'll take you to the homepage. In fact, this is us live right now. Click on this link right here. It says playlists. And then the playlist that Steve's referring to is right here. You'll see that there are 5 videos already in that playlist. And if I click on it, yep. And if you scroll down here just a little bit on the right-hand side, you'll see all of the workshops that we've done for you here. The first one was Feel the Rhythm. The second one was Picking Perfection. This third one was Playing Songs. The fourth one was Creative Soloing. Last time we had basically an hour and a half almost of just Q&A about techniques, which was really enlightening and got really personal on this one. So anyway, guys, that's the way that you can access all of the workshops that we're doing for you here. Cool?
Cool.
All right, man.
Okay, so the next thing we want to do is talk about, before we move on to slides, we want to talk about bending and vibrato. Because if you think about it, when I do a bend, what I'm doing is I'm again, bending and vibrato are both bends, right? You're putting tension on the string, which is causing the pitch to rise. It's just one of them, you're trying to raise it to a certain degree that is another pitch in your scale, and one of them you're just adding a little bend that's out of tune, right? That's what a vibrato is. So what we can do is we can actually learn how to do a bend and then add vibrato on that bend. So real quick, let's just talk about that. So let's say I was on the 8th fret again, A minor pentatonic. Let's say I was on the 8th fret of the 2nd string and I bend that up 2 frets higher. So I check my reference note and I bend it, right? And I want to make sure I hit that note. So now if I want to add vibrato, what I'm going to need to do is take that note. Again, I was here, I bent it up, now I'm here. I'm going to take that note and I'm going to release it just a little bit, and then I've got to bring it back up, and I've got to hit the note that I bent to. Okay, I can't. Let me demonstrate. So when I bend it up and I bring it back down for a vibrato, it's going to be out of tune. So I've got to bend it up so it's in tune again. So what you're really doing is creating 2 points. You've got your bend point and your vibrato point. And what you want to learn to do is move between those 2 points like this. If you start doing this, then again, it sounds like you're summoning aliens or something like that. You see? And I laugh at it, but I remember very much sitting in my room trying to learn how to do this, just struggling. So listen, we've all been there. So I'm certainly not making fun of you. I'm thinking of my world too, when I used to try and do these. So the trick is to try and really get used to those 2 points. And you'll notice I'm turning, and then I'm releasing and turning and releasing, and I'm going back and forth. And then I can control that and get the 2 happening together. So you see, there's lots of different wonderful ways that you can bend and add vibrato and different things like that. And it just takes a little while to get used to. But they're very, very, very important, and they take time. You've got to nurture each one of these little techniques. So even though, and I know I say this sort of thing all the time, but even though maybe you've been introduced to bending or vibrato or something before, and you go, yeah, I get it. I've done it before. You don't want to just do it. You want to develop it. You want to find comfort and control in it, so you have command over it at any time in your solos. So when you go to play, whatever it is that you like to do when you play, you want to be able to do that at any moment in time. So it sounds like a music. It doesn't just sound like you're playing the scale. So I think that's enough for bending and vibrato right now, other than questions that we might get at the end.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at all the questions right now. Guys, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. I see that people keep joining us, which is awesome. If you're just now joining us, we're about at the halfway mark of this live streaming session today on technique. We're doing the 3 critical soloing techniques you need to know as a guitar player, which are vibrato, bends, and slides. I'm Dan Denley, the founder of GuitarZoom, and this is my good friend Steve Stein. Of course, you guys know who he is. Steve is the author of a brand new course. It's available right now at guitarzoom.com. It's called Essential Techniques. A whole lot of people have already signed up for it. There's an introductory price going on right now, which ends very soon. And there are some awesome bonuses that you get with that when you decide to invest in that course. I do want to ask you guys to please post your questions about your techniques so that we can get to them. We're going to have a Q&A session here in just a minute. And please tell us this question. Answer this question for us. What does guitar playing mean to you, and how has it changed your life? What does guitar playing mean to you, and how has it changed your life? That would be a super awesome thing. If you feel comfortable sharing that with us, we'd really appreciate it. Stephen, I love hearing that. It keeps the old fires a burning. So if you want to learn technique, stay with us. If you want to learn it faster, check out Steve's new course, Essential Techniques, available at guitarzoom.com right now at the introductory price. Steve, I do want to share your mind map with folks, but I want to continue on and show you guys the behind the scenes of exactly what you're going to learn, and show you how Steve's brain works when he creates courses for you. But I don't want to get you off track, man, because I know you have an awesome curriculum that you want to present here in this. So I'll let you jump back to it. But I do want to get to that at some point.
Okay. So I think that's enough for bending and vibrato. And of course, in the guitar course, I go into this stuff in a far deeper level, but at least it gets me thinking about this. So the last thing we've got then is sliding. Now, sliding really serves two purposes. Either you're going from some spot on the guitar to some other spot on the guitar, and you're using the technique of sliding. It could be done with chords, right? That sort of thing. Or it could be in a solo. Maybe you're playing. Right? Or we sometimes use it as simply an effect, either to start or end a phrase, or within two notes that we might be playing in a solo. And let me show you what I mean. And again, I go into greater detail in these in the course, but you'll get the idea. So for instance, I call these airplane slides. Airplane slides are slides. If you think about an airplane landing, there isn't an exact spot where the wheels are supposed to touch the ground. We just all hope that they touch in the right enough place to where we survive for another day.
And Steve loves flying, by the way.
That's a whole other story. So what happens is they're going to hit the ground at some point, or they're going to touch the ground at some point, is a better way of saying it. And then you're going to come to a stop and smile and call your mom. So, I don't like flying. Anyway, so what an airplane slide is for a guitar player is I'm not starting on a particular note or a particular fret, and then you hear that. You just hear the slide. So it's great for starting or ending a phrase. Maybe I come in like this. So what I didn't do was, it wasn't that. You didn't hear the note at the beginning. I'm just coming in like an airplane, and I'm getting to my desired endpoint. And I can do the same when I slide off of it. I can slide, and what you'll notice is at the very end there, right before I leave the string, I touch the string with this hand, kind of karate chop it, and it's gone, right? So I might come in and do something, and then I'm gone again. So that's a really great way of learning how to slide, is airplane slides, and you can do them anywhere. You see? So I slid in, I slid back out. Now, another kind of slide that I love to do all the time is between two notes. Now, remember, we already said we can slide from a position to another position, that sort of thing. So what I like to do is I use it in a musical context where I'll play a note and then I'll slide to that note to reiterate the same point again. Just because it sounds more interesting than going. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but this, or I might even go. See, there's lots of really great ways that you can use sliding. So I see somebody, where is it there? Paul Fletcher says, comfortably numb is perfect for practice. Yeah. David Gilmour. Now, again, I have a buddy who is a diehard Pink Floyd fan. I am not a diehard Pink Floyd fan. I like Pink Floyd, for sure. But David Gilmour's playing for me is about a 10 out of 10 because he is so good at the things that I'm talking about right now. So accurate and so his guitar playing, his soloing is just absolutely out of this world. So things like Comfortably Numb is a prime example. There's a bunch of songs like that where when you try and replicate those songs, they're really hard to replicate, not because they're fast or anything like that, but because they're so on point. Like he's so accurate. And so I totally agree with you. There's all kinds of them. You listen to While My Guitar Gently Weeps, right? By the Beatles, or even the Prince version, right? The same thing. You're going to hear all of this amazing bending and sliding and all these things happening. So it's really worth looking into because for me, that's why I call them vocal elements. They're the things that really make the guitar sing. When we play like this, we're being a piano, right? We can do the things that a piano can do. But when we go, it sounds more like a voice than it does a piano. Mm-hmm. You see, it's those things that you really want to think about a little bit. So just again, think about these. I always try and explain why I come from where I'm coming from when it comes to teaching. But my biggest goal with students or people that watch my stuff is to get a small win, learning to think just a little bit further than where you are, because that's something that you can connect to and use tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And then that leads to another one, and it leads to another one. And in my opinion, it's less frustrating that way because you feel better about yourself. So
I love it, Steve. Guys, I'm just astonished and thankful that you have shown up today, and the numbers of viewers, at least according to this thing that I'm looking at, just keeps going up, which is super cool because this was completely not planned. Steve and I literally yesterday afternoon were like, hey, we should probably do a couple more of those workshops if you're up for it, Steve. I texted him and he said, of course I'm up for it. When do you want to start? I said, well, let's do it at the same time. So that's how we ended up here, guys. So it's awesome that you took time out of your day to be here with us. We really appreciate it. Today, we're talking about 3 critical soloing techniques: vibrato, bends, and slides. If you're just now joining, don't worry. You can see all the workshops that we've done, and this will be a replay that you can watch on the playlist on the GuitarZoom YouTube channel. While I'm thinking of it, I want to mention to you guys all the resources that we have for you, all the free resources that we have for you. One, which I keep forgetting to mention, is our podcast. We now have a podcast, and I was just asking the guys to tell me what our current rate is for the podcast in terms of our ranking. Anyway, no one's gotten back with me at that answer yet, but you can check out the Steve Stein podcast. And I'll be really honest with you. What it is videos that we've taken and just taken the audio out of the video, and that is the podcast. So it's not something that Steve sits down and takes 2 hours to do or whatever. We just take all of these videos that he's made over the last 10 years or something, and we take the audio out, and then that becomes a podcast. Now you may say, well, that's ridiculous, but I'll be honest with you. I don't know if you know this, Steve, but the last time I checked, that thing was like number 40 something.
Well, and we're not the one that curates the stuff. So they go through and find the stuff that best represents a conversation, right? So that's something that happens too, is that the person, the people that edit these things actually make sure that it makes sense from a non-visual perspective. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, we actually got this idea for the podcast because there was a gentleman who drove from Kansas, I think, to Nashville, Tennessee, when we did that event in Nashville, Steve. We did a live event a few years ago. And he told me that he actually listened, as he was a truck driver, he would listen to the DVDs back when we were doing DVDs and stuff. And he would just listen to it and kind of absorb the information as we went. And we're like, well, we should just make a podcast and do the exact same thing. So anyway, if you're into podcasts, which I love podcasts, go check out the Steve Stein Guitar Podcast. That's what it's called, Steve Stein Guitar Podcast. And if you want to do us a really big favor, leave us a review and a comment there. That would help us in the podcast to get the message out. That's obviously 100% free. We also have the GuitarZoom YouTube channel. So if you're not a subscriber to that, you may want to do that. There's lots of awesome content being put there all the time. There is the Steve Stein YouTube channel. Several hundred videos there for you. One of them now has over 9 million views, I noticed, just one video. So lots of traction there. People love that channel. There's the GuitarZoom Songs channel, so for YouTube. So there's 3 channels that we have that we're always putting out new videos for you to help you in your guitar playing journey. There is a new membership that we have. It's called Play Songs. Playsongs.com. You just go to playsongs.com. It'll take you right to the page. You can sign up for that. It's an annual membership. There's also, I think, a monthly, or maybe it's just monthly. I can't remember. Just go to playsongs.com if you're interested in that. It's all about songs. Steve teaches like, 300-400 songs on there. No ads, none of that crap. It's just learn songs. Pretty cool. There's also a VIP membership, which you can get right now, a 30-day trial. Free, 100% free. Just check it out. It's at guitarzoom.com. That's a VIP. That's lots more videos with tab and jam tracks. And then finally, Steve's brand new course is called Essential Techniques. So if you like what we're talking about today, these techniques, these bending, the vibrato, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, then I think you'll like that course. It's available right now at a discount. a discounted introductory price available at guitarzoom.com. The course is called Essential Techniques by Steve Stein. Steve, I want to get to questions, and I want to show your mind map. We've already been on here 45 minutes, and people just keep hanging with us. So how about we just keep on going, buddy?
Okay.
All right. You're awesome, dude.
Okay, so we've got bending, vibrato, and slides. And what I want you to start thinking about is how, again, there's other techniques too, but how are you going to implement those into your motion of playing? Because that's something to really remember is if you're going to learn how to do a bend, that's great, but you've got to apply it somehow logically to the motion that you make on the guitar, right? So if I was to go to, again, A minor pentatonic, and I go to the 7th fret and I bend that up, I've got to do something from there, right? So one thing that I can do is I can bring the bend back down and then continue on my journey wherever it is I'm going. So let's say I was going to go toward the ceiling. So I'm going to go back to 5, right? So I go. So that's an easy way for me to bend it up, bring it back down, and then continue on. Now, I think it was the last session that we did, we talked about string control and, making sure that your notes aren't all, the strings aren't vibrating when they shouldn't be, other strings that you're not playing. That sort of thing. Let's say I was going to go toward the floor. So I bend this up. And what I want you to notice there, what I did was I bent it up. And then without bringing the string back down, I immediately went to the 5th fret of the 2nd string. So what happens there is this string is bent up, so I've got to stop that string from making noise because I might bend it up, and when I take my hand off, it's going to start making noise. So what I do is when I bend it up, I get ready right here on the 2nd string of the 5th fret there. And what I want you to notice is with this hand, I touch that 3rd string, and it kills it. So now I can leave and get ready for the next thing I'm going to do. So learning to implement these ideas into your playing motion, right? You do a slide. You got to decide where you're going to go from that. If I'm sitting on my 3rd finger here, I might go back to my 1st finger, or maybe I'll connect to the 2nd string, right? So you start thinking about what finger you're on and what you're going to do after that. And I know that's a little bit deep, but I want you to start thinking about that because maybe you've already been developing some of these techniques, but you can't really figure out how to apply them. You have to remember that there's got to be forward motion, whether it's toward the floor or toward the ceiling. When you do a technique, you've got to follow that up with some sort of motion afterwards. You might go back where you came from, or you might go into new territory, but that's how this movement works, is I intertwine the techniques that I'm showing you right now with my ability to be able to move across the fretboard.
Right. Amazing. Amazing, Steve.
Thanks.
There are lots and lots of questions, and there are people that are still just coming into this. I'm amazed. It's crazy. Especially because we didn't really plan this. It's completely off the cuff. So thanks for being here with us, guys. Steve, why don't we do some questions? And by the way, if you're just now joining us, because people keep joining, please let us know your questions regarding techniques. Anything you have about techniques, specifically soloing, would be awesome. We're talking about bends, we're talking about vibrato, and we're talking about slides today. Okay. So if you have questions about that, please let us know. Post them wherever you are. We'll try to get to them as fast as we possibly can. And the other thing is, tell us why you play guitar. What does guitar mean to you, and how has it changed your life? If you feel comfortable sharing that, that would be awesome. Okay, let's get to some questions. Are you cool with that, Steve?
Of course.
All right. Man, we have a lot of questions. So I'm just going to jump in and just start rolling with some of the ones that I tried to screenshot because these things roll past so fast. Anyway, this is a big one, Steve. I don't know how you want to handle it. I'm just going to throw it out there. We can give a quick answer or a long answer. It's completely up to you. Steve Jones says, your tone is amazing. Please briefly cover your Kemper amp and how it differs from a typical pedal board into an amp.
Well, there's a million ways to get a good tone if you can hear what you're trying to create, right? For me, the biggest thing is that I don't, I've got a pedal board sitting in my closet that I just never use. I like simple, and that's where the Kemper works for me. It's just very simple. I literally don't have any other pedals. The Kemper. The reason why I wound up getting a Kemper is not just because of the tones, although the tones are amazing. It's because I can run a delay and a reverb and a chorus or a compression or a distortion pedal or something like that, all within the Kemper. And I can control them with my, like right here, if I shut this off, right? And I've got this nice wide solo kind of delay and reverb on this particular preset for that. I like simple. I like simple when I'm on stage. I like simple when I'm in the studio. So that's why I use the Kemper, and it works really well for what I do. I get great tones for studio, like for what I'm doing right now, and I get great tones for live. So it works really well.
Thanks, Steve. Dennis says, how can I get a longer sustain on my bends? My bends tend to die out too quickly.
Well, there's a couple things you can check. From the physical side of things, you could make sure your strings are new, because if your strings are old at all and you've got any kind of dirt and stuff like that, it's going to stop them from vibrating. The next thing is make sure that you've got enough room, that your strings aren't fretting out, because if they start touching another fret, they're going to die. The other thing is make sure that your noise gate isn't too high. If you've got a noise gate on your signal and it's set pretty high, which sometimes my tones are, if they're quite heavy, I've got the noise gate quite high, and then I have to be careful because I can't do the normal things I do, because that noise gate will grab it unless I boost that signal. Okay, So that's another thing to think about. And the other thing is just the right kind of distortion. If you don't have a lot of distortion on there, or you don't have the right kind of distortion on whatever it is you're trying to do, sometimes it'll die a little bit there too. What I found is when it starts dying, if you give it some vibrato, it tends to stay alive for a while longer. Right? Now, it's not that smooth, constant sustain that I would get with a bit of feedback. Like if I turned up louder and I started getting some feedback, I could keep that thing alive forever, right? But those are just different things that you could try and fix that.
Dayton says, Dayton Fonseca says, what are some good techniques for building strength in the left hand?
Well, if your left hand is my left hand, if it's for legato, you do a lot of legato techniques. A lot of hammer-on and pull-off techniques. And we talked about this, I don't know if it was the first or the second live session we did, but we went into this in great detail. So you'd want to watch one of those, and we talk about the 20, well, we don't go into big detail on it, but we talk about using all the different finger combinations to do hammer-ons and pull-offs, that sort of thing. You want to do a lot of legato exercises. This guitar course has got a ton of that stuff in there. 30-second exercises, 60-second exercises, 20-second exercises to try and develop strength and stamina and speed in your fingers. Like this kind of stuff, I do it all the time. I sit and watch TV, and this is what I'm doing with my guitar in my hand, is doing these kind of exercises. So I'm not even picking at that point. I'm just working on these. I keep looking around, and it's out in my car, I'm sure, but I have this little thing called a shred neck that you can buy. I forget the company that makes them. Maybe the company is even called Shred Neck, but I bring that on airplanes and stuff. I just stick it in my travel case that I bring on the plane, and I just do this stuff on the plane. I'll sit and practice this stuff. So if I'm going to a clinic or a gig or something like that, that's what I bring along, and I do this sort of thing to warm up my hands.
Awesome. Francis says, how do you avoid or prevent your finger or fingernail from catching on the string about the string you're bending?
That's a good question. First of all, my fingernails are always as short as humanly possible. I'm not saying that that's what you should do. I'm saying my fingernails, I'm obsessive compulsive about many things in my world, and that is one of them, is having my fingernails incredibly short. But what you're talking about is absolutely true. So when I bend up, for instance, if I bend the second string, the third string is going to be in the way. So I have two choices. Either I wind up bending both of those strings up at the same time, or what I do, just because it's more comfortable for me, is I do this, and I hook the third string on top of my finger. So it's literally sitting on top of, you can't see it, but it's literally sitting on top of my finger right now. And when I bring it back down, I'm stopping the sound, because if you listen this way, if I didn't touch it, it's going to start vibrating because it pops off the top of my finger, right? So when I come back down, I'm touching it with this hand, so you don't hear that third string. But that is a problem. Okay. So one thing is make sure your fingernails are short enough. And number two, whenever you do a bend, you're going to get in the way of the other strings. The question is whether or not you're just going to push them all up simultaneously, or whether or not you're going to hook and put it on the top flesh of your finger.
Awesome, Steve. Here's one from me, actually. Ken Johnson says, hey, Dan, what mic are you using? Really easy to answer that one. It's called a Blue Yeti. It's a Blue Yeti. Hopefully it sounds good. Question for you, Steve. Keenan Andrew O'Brien says, what's your laziest finger on the what's your laziest finger on the guitar action fretboard? I thought it was my pinky. Then I found out it was actually my middle finger.
Oh, mine is my third finger for sure. Yeah. My third finger, the tendons that go into your third finger are unlike the other fingers. So it has this reliancy on the other fingers to do its thing. For most people, again, there's somebody that can bend it all the way back and put their leg over their head and whatever. But for most of us, that one's the problem for a lot of us. And for me, that's no doubt it's my third finger. And that's why, again, when I practice, I do a lot of things where I utilize my third and my pinky, my third and my pinky in my sequences like I'm doing right now, where I'll just practice trying to get those warmed up. And I tell you, just a side note, the older I get, the more I have to do what I refer to as pre-practice, which isn't even a practice. It's just getting myself warmed up, getting my hands warmed up, getting my brain warmed up, all those sorts of things. There are times when I wake up in the morning and I go to play and my fingers, and it doesn't stress me out anymore, but there was a time when I was like, is there a problem? Because my fingers just would not function properly, because I know what I can do. And it's very disheartening when you wake up and your fingers don't do what you want them to do. And what I found is what I need to do is I need to do a pre-practice. I do a pre-warm-up. Then I start my regular practice and I'm good to go.
Awesome. Nelson asks, which fingers must always be used for vibrato? Which fingers must always be used for vibrato?
You can use any finger for vibrato.
Okay, yeah.
Literally anything. Yeah, you can use any finger for vibrato for sure.
Cool. John Weeby says, Steve, do you use the same doorknob technique when doing vibrato with the pinky?
I do. But please remember, when it comes to my pinky, a lot of times if I'm using my pinky, it's because I'm down in this sort of rock and roll 3-note per string stance. Okay. So if I'm in this blues stance that I was talking about with my thumb over the top, a lot of times my pinky isn't being overly used. Now, again, remember, I'm a small human being with small hands. So when I'm playing, what you'll notice in any time I play, because it's impossible for me not to do it, if I was playing and I want to go to my pinky, you're going to see me drop. You're going to see my wrist drop. See? Mm-hmm. It's going to happen. And this is all natural over 40 years of playing guitar, right? But that's what happens. So if I drop into this stance for whatever reason, I don't have the doorknob availability anymore, right? So if I'm down like this and I'm doing a vibrato on my pinky, oftentimes I won't be doing that doorknob turn. I'll just be moving that pinky. Now, remember, I had a teacher in college once that told me this, which was just mind-blowing to me because I'd never thought of it before. But I was telling him how I hated doing vibrato, for instance, on the first string because I had to push upward. And I hated doing vibrato like this because, again, I could do it, but I didn't like the way it sounded. He's like, well, what note are you playing? I go, well, I'm playing an A. He goes, well, just go to the second string. And I was like, oh, well, that's really cool. So instead of trying to go there and do that, I just head up and do that. So there are times that even when you're doing vibrato, you might drop into a different finger or a different string for that reason to get a certain kind of effect, right? Because there's this thing called human nature. When we play, there are things that are natural for you and things that are limiting to you because of who you are and the way you're built and the way you play and all these other things. And so what you start doing is you start figuring out how to approach those things. So again, I'm not going to go crazy with this whole thing, but pinky, it all depends. It depends on where I'm coming from. But oftentimes with the pinky, if I'm going to do a vibrato, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that rock and roll blues stance.
Mm-hmm. Guys, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. We're bumping up on about an hour and people are still hanging with us, Steve. In fact, the numbers are just, just keep going up. I'm just blowing my brain. It's like, what? Completely unplanned, guys. We just decided to do this for you. In fact, one of the comments was, sorry, I'm late. I thought the 5th one was the last one. And what he's referring to is Steve and I did 5 of these workshops for you on technique. They're all available for you on the YouTube GuitarZoom channel. Just go to YouTube, type GuitarZoom, click the channel and click playlist, and you'll see essential techniques, all of them right there for you. Another gentleman said, thank you for the podcast. I love it, which is awesome. I want to let you guys know that Steve has a podcast. It's called the Steve Stein Guitar Podcast, if you'd like to check that out. Also, I'm going to be sharing with you, if you guys are interested, Steve's mind map of how he created the Essential Techniques course and show you like how his brain works, kind of like a behind the scenes look into Steve Stein's brain. I did this completely on the fly, unbeknownst to Steve on the first session, and he was cool with it. Hopefully he'll be cool with it again today, Steve. And if you guys are interested in seeing that mind map, I'm just curious, just say yes or something like that. Yes, we want to see how Steve's brain works or something, just to kind of let me know, to gauge the interest in you guys seeing that. Otherwise, I won't waste your time with it. And so, but I do want to get to some more questions if you're up for that, Steve.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So this comes from David Lloyd, who says he had a couple things. He said, your last broadcast made me buy the Essential Techniques course and 2 other courses. Well, thank you, David. Appreciate your patronage very, very much. He goes on to say, when you bend, he's talking to you, Steve. He says, when you bend, you always have your left thumb up or wrapped like most guitarists, but you generally play with the thumb out of sight like a classical guitarist. Why? And how should a beginner hold their left thumb?
That's exactly what I just said in the last question. The reason is because when I get into this stuff, if I turn my wrist at all, or if I'm going to use my pinky, I have to put my wrist down. My hand is small. So I can't play in this rock blues, like I can't play in this position and do this. You see? So, and again, I don't know if that's just me. I mean, you got to have pretty big hands to be able to hook up here and still be able to do 3-note per string patterns and things like that. So that's why that's happening is, again, it's just a natural motion that happens with my hand depending on what it is I'm trying to do. So sometimes when I do vibrato, I'll do it with the thumb over the top. Sometimes it's back like this, but that's why. So you can call it a classical approach by putting the thumb behind here. But for me, it really isn't. It has to do with the limitations I have with my availability of being able to move my hand. So, when I was growing up, everything that I listened to was all based off 3-note per string patterns or more. And having small hands, it was, important for me to get used to being able to, be able to move my hand and still keep that distance. So if I do this, there's no way I could even do that. So
here's one from a YouTuber, Steve. It says, Steve, you appear to have small hands, yet you play amazing. He just disappeared. Hang on a second. I screenshotted it.
Small hands, yet you play amazing and fluently. How do you overcome playing with small hands?
Yes. Thank you.
I don't, to be honest with you, I don't even think of it that way. It's just playing, I mean, most of my friends weren't always really, really, really tall basketball player style friends that had big hands or something like that. I think it's just, you just get comfortable with doing what you do the way that you do it, Right. Because I'm sure somebody with really big hands has to do something completely different. Like I've taught students before with really big hands when they play, and they have a really hard time like making a G or something. Like their hand is all the way down here trying to play. And I'm not sure that that's beneficial. I'm not sure that that's even better than having small hands. So I think we all have our situations we have to deal with to make it work. You just get comfortable with it. And that's why the more you play, the more you practice, the more you do real things, not just playing a scale or playing a lick or playing an exercise or something like that, but you actually apply these things to songs and things like that. You start figuring out where the guitar neck needs to be, where your wrist needs to be, when you play certain things. If I'm playing, I'm here, right? But if I'm playing, some sort of now I'm here. And I'm not conscious of it. It's just over time, that's what's happened, because that's how I deal with my availability to reach. Now, there's no doubt that because I've got smaller hands, I've always been attracted to thinner guitar necks because they feel better for me when I play. Having a chunky guitar neck feels very, very awkward to me, where somebody else is going to go, man, that feels perfect to me. That's another thing, is finding the right guitar strings, finding the right guitar neck, finding the right guitar in general, finding the right tone, right? All those things are a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, guys, this is so cool that you've just shown up to hang out with us again for another workshop. This was completely off the cuff. And today we're talking about techniques. We're talking about 3 critical techniques: soloing, vibrato, and bends. We've been going for about an hour now. I do want to read some awesome comments we've gotten. One of the questions that Steve and I are just fascinated with hearing from you, or one of the things we love to ask and then hear from you, is this: why do you play guitar? What does it mean to you? And how has it changed your life? And I'd just like to read a few of these to everybody here. Like, where to start here? As Philip Ridgway says, as a 12-year-old kid, I was very shy. I learned to play guitar, self-taught, joined a band, got up on stage, and eventually got over my shyness because of playing guitar. I was a bass player first, he says. Another person says, I started playing when I was 14. Not only is guitar playing a creative and emotional outlet, it's given me many friendships and opened my eyes to discovering and understanding new music. Juan Cañon says, guitar cures depression and makes you feel free and powerful. Another person says, this person's name is Dis Albavets, says guitar was not my first choice. I wanted to be a drummer. Guitar has always been a challenge for me, so it has affected my life as hard work pays off eventually. That's a great testimony to the fact that working hard and then, like, hey, you went down this one path of wanting to be a drummer, realized that really didn't have the skills to do it, or whatever the situation was, and then pivoted to guitar and then found his kind of niche there. J.R. Donovan says, it's a great escape from the day-to-day madness. Amen to that, brother. Check out this one, Steve. Dollkeeper Gmail. This person's name or their handle. I caught my wife's eye over 40 years ago playing guitar at a party. That sort of changed my life. Love it. And Jeff Sanders says, for me, playing guitar is a form of expression that lends style, emotion, and context to words and songs. The right combination has the power to change people. Stefan Zinn says, these workshops are great. Makes me feel kind of silly for buying the course. So let me answer that real quick. We do try to give as much as we possibly can. By the way, Steve, can you make me not big? I feel weird. I'm not used to seeing myself like that. I need my friend over there on the side, equal partners. I do want to show you guys a couple of resources. One, Steve and I try to make workshops, and Steve does 99% of everything in terms of creating content for you guys. We try to make things that are going to be helpful for you and you're going to benefit from, even if you decide not to become a GuitarZoom member. So what we want to do is we want to give our best stuff. And then, hey, if you're serious enough that you want to invest and get the full course or join a membership, great. If not, okay. Either way, Steve and I just have this philosophy of this kind of whole nirvana thing. Like, you give and then you receive. And we've been doing that for over, almost 15 years now. And it seems to work out pretty good. And it's in absolute gratitude to you guys that we're able to do what we do. So I do want to share with you the mind map. It seems like people are interested in that. And then we'll wrap this up because we've been going for about an hour or so here, guys. Just want to mention everything we talked about today is the 3 critical techniques you need for soloing: bends, vibrato, and and slides. Didn't have my cue cards in front of me. Got off track. And all of this is part of Steve's new course. It's called Essential Techniques. It's available right now at guitarzoom.com for an introductory price. The price will go up soon. And there's some awesome bonuses, which you will get. I do want to show you guys this. So if I can, this is basically the way that Steve's brain works. This is behind the scene. Steve sits down and he uses some type of mind mapping software. This is a new one, Steve. I haven't seen this. But this is how he, I'm just going to zoom out. You can see all the branches on this thing. And then I'm going to zoom in and show you kind of the stuff that we were talking about today. I mean, this is everything here. And then if you zoom in, you'll see that the course starts out in an introductory discussion. There is a section on setup and your amplifier, and then chords, open chords, power chords, bar chords. And you can see the detail that he goes through on each one. Just on the open chords, he talks about bouncing and a lift and shift technique. And I can tell you that those two techniques alone, if you're having problem changing chords quickly and easily and eliminating dead notes, that section right there is worth probably the entire price of the course, because that will be a total game changer for you. So that's another thing I love about this type of course is you don't have to go like the theory classes and those kinds of things. You really need to start at the beginning and go straight through. Not so with the Essential Techniques course. You can jump in any problem area that you're having and just attack that one particular technique and then move on to something else. There's a whole section on rhythm and strumming, which is a whole workshop on that as well. Just for the sake of time, Steve, I'm not going to walk through every one of these, but I did want to show you guys the things that are related to today that we talked about: vibrato, bends, and slides. I'm going to show you and zoom in here in just a second. The vibrato, standard versus classic, how to do it, whammy bar vibrato. And again, if you're reading some of these, you're like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. This is because Steve is just dumping all this in here. And once he gets it kind of organized, then he goes and teaches it. So obviously, if there's some terminology in here, you're like, that doesn't make sense, or I don't know what that means. It's because this is Steve's personal kind of mind map that he created. Just on bending, check it out. Whole, half, 3-fret bends, blues bends, unison bends, harmony bends, pre or ghost bends, double pumps, siren bends, bend sliding, bend pull-offs. There's a whole section of this course that's just on bending. Hand synchronization, here's slides, all different sliding techniques. And then, of course, arpeggios. There's a whole section on arpeggios, string skipping, playing octaves, 2-hand tapping, harmonics. We did have some questions about harmonics, natural and artificial. One person said that harmonics are the bane of his existence. That made me laugh. Dynamic tools, guitar tones, sound effects, finger picking, hybrid picking, etc. Guys, you get the picture. This thing is 6.5 hours long. It's called Essential Techniques. It's available right now. Steve's brand new course, never before seen, at guitarzoom.com at the introductory price, which ends soon, as well as some cool bonuses. One of those bonuses is called Chord Chasing Mastery, which is a course we released a couple of years ago. Smash hit. And you get that course free when you decide to invest in Essential Techniques. Okay, my friend, we've done some questions. We've shown the mind map. We have covered quite a bit in this particular workshop. Where do you want to go from here, buddy?
That's what I had for today.
All right. Sounds good enough to me. It's Friday afternoon or Friday night where a lot of folks are. So hopefully you're having a beer, and it's probably about time for us to get off here and go have one at some point. Although Steve gave up alcohol, apparently. He's a teetotaler now. That's great, man.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. You're looking good. You're looking good and healthy over there, brother. All right, guys. Thank you again for being here. Remember that the last day for the introductory price on Essential Techniques is coming up. So don't kick yourself because we will make it available in the shop. You'll still be able to purchase it, of course. You just won't be able to get the introductory price. Again, if you're interested, it's at guitarzoom.com. The course is called Essential Techniques. And I can't thank you enough, Steve, for taking your time out and hanging out and helping people. And I can't thank all of you enough for being here and supporting us and Steve and GuitarZoom. The reason we're able to do this is because of your support. So thanks again. Stay positive and keep on picking.
That's right. Yeah, that's the most important thing is you got to stay positive and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. All right, brother. Having a great weekend. See you later.
Yeah, everybody take care. Have a great weekend. And Dan, I'll talk to you soon. Okay, buddy?
All right. Bye, guys. Have a great weekend.